Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Battle Bunker. So that's my first year of tournaments over my first year as a competitive player. The weekend just gone was the first anniversary of the RTT that I started at, the EAGT, and it was been an experience. So this year's was a 28 man event. Should have been 32, but unfortunately there was some drops on the day. So it was 28 man event, and I finished 18th with a 1-2 and a total score of 214 points for the day. So I'm really pleased with it. It's the third time that I've been to an East Anglian Grand Tournament RTT. The first time I didn't even score close to 100 points for the whole day. The second time I got a 1-2. The only person I beat that day was my teammate Jay. And then this one was a 1-2 again. But like I say, finished 18th. So very happy with where I finished. So my first game was a Terraform game against a lovely guy called Daniel, and his Invasion Fleet Tyranids, monster heavy Invasion Fleet Tyranids. I will add. So I unfortunately ended up going first. He'd left his big bugs with the rupture cannons reasonably visible, and during deployment I went for my tried and tested symmetrical deployment. So I had Fire Prism and a Void Weaver on either side of the board, and they would exactly face down his big bugs with the rupture cannons. So unfortunately, after I've moved and everything, I managed to get the terraforms off across the three objectives. No, sorry, I didn't. I only got terraforms on both of them because I drew Establish Locus and Cleanse, and I couldn't get units on enough to be able to cleanse 2 and terraform all 3. So I terraformed 2, and I managed to get units on the other 2 to be able to terraform them. So that was my movement phase. Got that far. It was lovely. In the shooting phase, both my Void Weavers completely refused to play the game, and then my Fire Prisms only put in a half-assed effort. So unfortunately, what should have been 2 big dead bugs, or dead big bugs, they were barely even scratched. So that left me in a whole world of hurt for my first turn. For Daniel's first turn, should I say. So Daniel managed to come out. Daniel drew Storm Hostile Objective, of which he had 3 to choose from, and Overwhelming Force. The same action pretty much achieves both of those. Unfortunately for me, his rupture cannons had 100% their heart in the game. I ended up with 1 Fire Prism at 2 wounds, and the other Fire Prism, I believe, was at about 6 wounds. So very heavily, very shall we say, devastating to me. So we move on to turn 2. Scored 8 points for my primary, and I drew Bring It Down and Storm Hostile Objective, neither of which I achieved. I just couldn't bring anything down, and I couldn't get enough OC on to secure a hostile. So yeah, very low score in second round for myself. Daniel, on the other hand, for his second round, extend battle lines and behind enemy lines, both of which he achieved with relative ease, actually, and 14 points on his primary. So instantly I'm starting to fall behind here. So what I did at the end of my turn is I ditched Storm Hostile Objective for a CP, and then in my turn 3 I kept Bring It Down, and I drew Overwhelming Force. So I managed to kill one, I believe, if memory serves, I believe it was the Norm Emissary I killed for Bring It Down, and I managed Overwhelming Force as well. So and that along with the 6 points for primary, that was my turn 3. For Daniel's turn 3, 16 points for his primary, and he drew behind enemy lines. Sorry, turn 2 he drew Extend Battle Lines, not behind enemy lines. So turn 3 he drew behind enemy lines and Sabotage, both of which he was quite successful at. And another 15 points for 16 points, sorry, for his primary. By this point, I'm starting to run out of models. Things are getting very difficult for me. Both Fire Prisms at this point have already been killed. Both Void Weavers are dead. So I've got very little to bring down anything big and heavy. I think I was down to about one of the Starweaver transports. So yeah, I'm really starting to struggle now. I'm picking up units way quicker than I want to be. They just weren't trading in the way that I wanted them to be. So really starting to get worried that this was going to be beyond my reach, which it turned out to be, because in turn 5 I drew Assassination and Attempting Target. I didn't have enough forces left to be able to take Attempting Target. However, I did achieve Assassination by bringing down one of his characters for 5 points, and then for 3 points on my primary. So into Daniel's turn 4, the bottom of turn 4, he scores another 15 points for primary, Assassination and Stronghold. I think by this point I had a Death Jester and a Troop Master left, maybe a couple of troops, nothing significant. So he managed to kill the Death Jester for Assassination, and at the same time he landed on my and at the same time I didn't have anything that could stop him from defending his stronghold. So again, maxed that one out. 15 points for his primary, 5 for Assassination, and 3 for Defend Stronghold. And at this point I was tabled. So I scored absolutely nothing turn 5 because I had nothing to score anything with. And Daniel went on to recover assets and Attempting Target, which was very easy for him. So Daniel maxed out the game 100 points to my 46. It was even though it didn't go in my favour, it was still a really good, really fun game. So thank you very much, Daniel, for the game. It was much appreciated, and hopefully we'll see each other at another EAGT in the future. So my second game was against a lad called Nathan. with his Black Spear Task Force Deathwatch. I had never even seen Deathwatch on the tabletop, let alone played against them. So it was really, really interesting to do. Really interesting to play against. He had a Space Marine hover tank. I can't remember what any of these things are called. And he had two different dreadnoughts, and then he had two Deathwatch exclusive flyers, planes, which both started off the board. I believe they came in turn 2, or maybe it might have even been turn 3 they came in. It was Purge the Foe. Yeah. Not one of my more favourite missions, I must admit. When you're playing MSU style T3 Troop Heavy Eldar, it's yeah. They may be Harlequins, they may have the 4-up invul saves, but they do fall over to a stiff breeze. So I unfortunately ended up going first again. He'd left line of sight to his big tank, so I removed that quite easily with a fire prism, and then I believe I also removed one of his dreadnoughts as well. So I drew for my turn 1 Established Locust, which I achieved quite easily within the centre of the board, and a tempting target, which I couldn't get to, unfortunately. Just the way I'd laid my forces out, I just couldn't get to it. So 4 points for Purge and 2 points for Established Locust. In his turn 1, Nathan only scored 4 points on Purge. He couldn't establish Locust, or he drew Established Locust, Area Denial, and a tempting target. He got rid of a tempting target for that's when he drew Area Denial. But I didn't allow him the opportunity to do that. He'd started with 5 units on the board, none of which was fast enough to get to the middle of the board to be able to score any of those. So just the 4 points there for Nathan on his primary. And at this point, I think I'm doing okay. So into turn 2, I drew Overwhelming Force and Behind Enemy Lines. He had nothing on objectives for Overwhelming Force, and I easily managed to get something behind enemy lines. The map was Crucible of Battle, so easily managed to get something behind enemy lines, and another 8 points for primary and Purge. So like I say, at this point I think I'm doing okay. I'd got the upper hand. Then it must have been this turn, must have been turn 2 that these planes came in, because suddenly everything swung the other way. Nathan scored 12 points for his primary Purge, and then marked for death and extend battle lines. He easily scored both of those going on in turn 2, which put me on the back foot somewhat. I lost a fire prism at this point, and I believe I lost a Void Weaver as well. So things were not looking favourable at this point. So going into my turn 3, I drew Assassination and Cleanse. Assassination I paid a CP to get rid of. and then drew Sabotage, which was a far easier secondary to achieve. 8 points for my Purge. Cleansed 2 objectives and scored a Sabotage, so 5 and 3 for those. We're still it's a really good game, really fun. But things were starting to swing the other way. My biggest mistake I'd made was I'd underestimated just how powerful these planes were going to be. I've never played against a plane in fly mode, in aircraft mode before. I played against them in hover mode, but never against them in aircraft mode. So, minimum 20-inch move. You can't get cover from them wherever you are. Nothing blocks line of sight. Wherever you are, they can be seen, and you can see them. Or at least that's how we understood the aircraft rule. So for Nathan's turn 3, he scored. He drew Display of Might and Storm Hostile Objective. Because I run an MSU list with about 19 units in it, it's quite difficult. It was quite difficult for him to score Display of Might, and unfortunately he didn't. But Storm Hostile Objective, he managed to take an objective off me. So that was turn 3. Turn 4, I drew Bring It Down and Secure No Man's Land. Secure No Man's Land I achieved. More objectives in the middle. I managed to achieve that. Another 8 points for Purge. For the primary, on the primary. However, Bring It Down, I just didn't have enough firepower left. I'd already brought down the weaker things before the planes arrived. I'd brought down the 2 dreadnoughts and these other tanks before the planes arrived. And unfortunately, I didn't have enough firepower left to bring the planes down. It was unfortunate. So I burned that at the end of the turn for a CP. And in Nathan's turn 4, he drew Defend Stronghold and Sabotage, both of which was an easy achieve. Going into turn 5, another 4 points on primary for myself. And I drew Bring It Down. Oh, sorry, I didn't Bring It Down at the end of turn 4. I kept hold of that, which I did manage to achieve in turn 5, and Storm Hostile Objective, which I achieved. Nathan's turn 5 was huge. 16 points on primary, 5 points for a Secure No Man's Land, and 3 points for Recover Assets. So all in all, I scored 32 out of 50 for my primary and 26 out of 40 for my secondaries. And Nathan scored 44 out of 50 for his primary and 27 out of 40 for his secondaries. So unfortunately for me, it was an 81 to 68 loss. But a lot was learned, and next time I face the Death Watch, I shall be a little bit more careful of where those planes come in and exactly what can be done with them when they do come in. So we had 9 minutes to go from game 3, or game 2 into game 3. In game 3 was a hidden supplies, and it was on Search and Destroy, the map. So I was up against another young lad called Birch with his Combined Arms Astra Militarum. It was relatively tank heavy. Now, Hidden Supplies is a mission that I do enjoy. And I seem to do quite well. It's taken hold in the middle. The only real thing that Birch had in his army that worried me was a Storm Sword, I think it was, a bloody great tank in the middle, full of 20 Krieg troops, and he had a Rogel Dawn tank commander and a Lehman Russ tank commander. So he didn't actually have any way to give orders to his troops. However, there was a few tanks to deal with. So Birch went first after we deployed, and he drew overwhelming force to start with, along with a tempting target. He burned overwhelming force in favour of extend battle lines instead, both of which he achieved. Tempting target, he managed to achieve, and the extend. So he was off to a flying start. Myself for turn 1 was Storm Hostile Objective and Sabotage, both of which I achieved. Managed to take the objective off of him that he'd had to take for tempting target, and sneaky little sabotage just in one of the buildings just outside my deployment zone. Yeah. So for turn 2, and this was unfortunately Birch's only primary score of the entire game, for 5 points. He drew Cleanse behind enemy lines. He ditched Cleanse, I think it was, for Defend Stronghold, which he achieved. For my turn 2, 15 points on primary. I just managed to get out. In turn 1, I'd managed to get out and get on as many of the 4 mid-board objectives as I could. And I drew Assassination and Display of Might. Unfortunately for Birch, my Fire Prisms by this point had decided they were going to play. And very, very quickly, between those and a Void Weaver, we dispatched the Rogel Dawn tank commander. I believe it was the Rogel Dawn. It might have been the Lehman Russ, but I believe it was the Rogel Dawn tank commander. That turn, quite easily, 2 Fire Prisms and a Void Weaver is going to do that. So that was Assassination. And Display of Might, again, he didn't have the bodies in no man's land that he needed to be able to outscore me on that. So scored big on both of those. For turn 3, he managed, or he drew Bring It Down and Establish Locust. He brought down one of my Void Weavers for Bring It Down, and he established his Locust. For my turn 3, where are we? My turn 3, Engage on All Fronts and Overwhelming Force, both of which I scored. I got all four quarters. and I got the overwhelming force. And unfortunately for Birch, he lost his big shadow sword, I think it was called, to two fire prisms. They'd already done some damage earlier in the game, and that was it. I'd removed that, and by the time I'd removed that, I'd also taken out his tech priest, as part of the engage on all fronts, and I got onto his home objective, but it only scored 10 points in primary on that one. So turn 4 for Birch, engage on all fronts and storm hostile objective. He didn't have anything close to enough left to be able to get to a hostile objective, but he did manage to engage on all fronts for a baby 2 points. I believe at this point I'd got him pretty much consigned to his deployment zone, and to engage on all fronts he managed to use a commissar, I think it was, that came out of strategic reserve, and I'll be honest, where he'd put it, I forgot about it, and it lived a turn longer than it should have done. So my turn 4 was another 15 points on primary, with cleanse and a defend stronghold. Defend stronghold, nobody was getting near my stronghold, and cleanse was another big 5 points. So I was on fire basically this turn. Birch, bless him, he was running out of things. What we discovered, unfortunately for Birch, is that the +1 to wound on a Harlequin when you're only fighting guardsmen is pretty big. Troop masters re-rolling 1s +1 to wound. Now they're wounding guardsmen on 2s. The rest of the troop are wounding guardsmen on 2s. No armor saves, or if at best 5s and 6s armor saves. And I'd managed to get my Harlequin troops into close combat with all of Birch's foot soldiers, and unfortunately it was simply a case of I rolled my dice, he picked models up. I rolled my dice, he picked models up. And he was okay about it. We was laughing and joking about it. He's a really nice guy. So that was turn 4 with cleanse and defend stronghold. Turn 5, all Birch could do was hold on till the end of the game. Basically, he drew recover assets and display of might in his turn, one of which he got rid of for no prisoners, which he did achieve. He managed to kill. He killed something for no prisoners, so so not all was lost. And then for my turn 5, area denial and tempting target, I pretty much had control of the whole board. Tempting target was a given. I had all 4 objectives in the mid board, and I even had troops on his home objective as well. Area denial, he just didn't have anything where he could get even close. Going bottom, drawing those 2 things bottom of turn 5, so they score at the end of my turn, was huge, with a 15 points primary as well. So I won that game 100 to 41. Birch unfortunately only 5 points the whole game on primary, and 26 out of 40 for his secondaries, where I maxed out both primary and secondary. So all in all, it was a really, really good tournament. There was a lot of different faces there that we hadn't seen before. It was nice to play 3 people that I'd never played before, because historically at these things I always end up playing J in round 3. So it was really nice to play people that we'd not played before and we'd not seen before, and to meet some really lovely people. And I look forward to seeing them again, playing against them again. So this concludes. Actually, it does. Well, this covers what was my final tournament. So there'll be one more video in this series that covers what I've learned over my year, how I feel it's gone, what things I would change, anything I'd improve, things like that. Just my experience of my first year as a Harlequin player, and as a competitive 40Ker. It has been so much fun, and I'm looking forward to next year, to next season. Now this season's over, I'm looking forward to next season and seeing if I can't do better. See if I can't turn some of these 1-2s into 2-1s over the year. But for now, everybody have a wonderful evening, and may the dice forever roll in your favour. Good night.